Welcome to the Cowfish Show, an exploration in human evolution, raising consciousness, creating happiness, fulfillment, and love, one soul at a time. I'm E.L. Brooks, a newly awakened soul on a mission to help people find their happiness and truth.
And I'm Lindsey Kimura, a happiness explorer empowering humans in wisdom and understanding. The universe united us to share our passions. Welcome to our show.
Hey guys, it's Eric.
And Lindsey, welcome back.
Welcome back. I'm working on my posture because you have great posture, and I have I'm always like, what's up, man? What's happening?
Oh.
Season 1, episode 8, season finale.
Yes. We did it.
We did it. Yeah. Kind of crazy, right? Happening really, really fast. I am like messing with my gut here because it's that season of Girl Scout cookies.
Yes.
And I bought a whole bunch of Girl Scout cookies and consumed a whole bunch of Girl Scout cookies. I think they like sprinkle crack on those Thin Mints. That's mine. I don't know what yours is, but Thin Mints
What are the ones that have like caramel drizzle and chocolate drizzle?
I don't know.
Those are mine.
That's yours? Okay.
Yeah.
Super Bowl weekend coming up. I'm actually going to Magnum Watch Super Bowl party.
Nice.
Way to slide that in. But I am going to a Magnum Watch Super Bowl party. Magnum is our sponsor, and as you know, all of our listeners get 25% off by using coupon code Cowfish25. Super Bowl weekend, I will try not to indulge and drink as much.
I like it, Eric.
All right. Episode 8, season 1, season finale. Topic is I am, you are, who are we, the ego and collective consciousness.
Yes.
A big one. Woo. Who
Yes.
are we? Where do we come from?
Just when I was driving here to record the episode, I was thinking, wow, I started going down the rabbit hole of who are we? Why are we here? And, how as we evolve, it's okay that our understanding and our view and vision evolves because, what I believed 3 years ago has changed from what I have now. So just kind of being in this ever-evolving state. But to get right into it, I would say in this episode, we want to talk about the self, the I am in lowercase, and then the I am in uppercase, and the we are as in both, the little I am and the big I am. So little I am, what I believe is that is the individual, like you, Eric, me, and oftentimes what's driving the individual and in our society has become overboard and imbalance has been that human will, the individual will, which we call ego, that sense of the small self, and blowing that up so big that each individual becomes or can be perceived as an island and separate from others and more important or more this or more that. So we're going to talk about how the ego has become imbalanced in our society and how that has been reflected. And then the idea of the I am as in you are connected to the greater divinity and universe and God or creator, whatever you call that. And the I am is you are as in connected to the all that is. So we are comprised of the same materials we're from the same source. So there really is not this separation or inequality. And then talking about these wills, right? We each have our individual will, the small I am. And then there's the divine will, which is the creator will, and how when we are on this planet as humans, I believe, I say this in my book, that we're here to create, to serve, to learn lessons, and part of creating is to play, I believe. And what creation is it's really this co-creation between yourself as an individual human and then the creator. So if you ever want to look for what's the difference between these two, is you can use your intuitive guidance, your what we call intuition, your connection to source. And when you hear go left, but you go right. Your will was to go right. Divine will was to go left. And so you learn that lesson, right? But when you start following and working with and harmonizing with divine will, it's this beautiful balance of human will, divine will. Everything's in check. Like that stream we were talking about before, things are in the flow state and you're still learning lessons, but you have this underlying current that's buoying you up, that's supporting you. And so talking about co-creation and divine will, your will. And I would say that I believe it's important to have a sense, we all have personalities, right? Or else we'd all look exactly the same. We would do the same thing. So it's important to bring out your personality and express yourself through your blueprint, but to remember that we're all from the same place that can keep us in check.
Yeah, that's good. That's great. Just to elaborate on what you're saying, like the little I, there's actually 3 journeys that all humans have access to. I really think it's kind of 2 because I actually think the 3rd journey is chosen for a select few. But there's the journey away from the source. There's the journey to the source. And there's the journey within the source. So the journey away from the source is we are born as miracle babies. So we are, connected right off the bat to the source. And I believe that information to return back to the source resides in us. And that's why when you talk about the little I and the big I am, the things that are fighting, the things that make us suffer is our choices of following the little I am versus following the big I am. And so what ends up happening is the journey away from the source is our first journey, because that's our journey into connecting to our human form in the narrative in society. So society teaches us to learn fear. And that's not what the source is all about. The source is literally pure love. And so we develop these filters and these veils, as they call it in either scriptures or in spirituality. We develop these veils that end up clouding our decision process. And so the longer that we stay on that route, that journey away from the source, the more suffering that we have. But everything is meant to bring us back to the source. And the universe is connected, obviously, and so the universe has this way of kind of pushing us back onto the path, and those are through our private salvation. So everyone has a private salvation as they go through life, right? And so it could be your job, it could be whatever it is that you are like building, and as you build it, if it's not in line with your truth and with your soul, it will always crumble. And it's meant to crumble because it's meant to shift you back to your purpose and try to get you back on the right path to follow your soul and your soul's purpose. But obviously, a lot of us view the crumbling of our private salvation as hardships, setbacks, and if we're not aware, because everything's in energy cyclical loop. If you notice, like a lot of people, you can go throughout your day, and they say that 95% of our thoughts are automatic. Actually, 91% of our thoughts are automatic. So you can actually go through your day and not really even have conscious thought. So you can be completely unconscious. So if you go through life and you have these hardships and you're not awake and you're unconscious, you're just in that loop, that energy loop. You can move further down the journey away from the source.
Yeah, sleeping, right?
Yeah, and so consciousness either keeps you asleep or it wakes you up. But the lessons are always within the crumbling of the hardships, because that, once again, is to get back to the journey towards the source is where you find the inner happiness, inner peace. And as you said, talked about the ebb and flow in the stream, because you're not fighting. You're not going up against the stream. You're actually within the current, and the universe has given you, as a miracle baby, a gift and a purpose. And if you don't follow that gift and a purpose, then you will always suffer until you move to that path. So
Yeah. So you go downstream and then you go back up, right? So the third type, what is that?
oh, the third one I believe is mostly, I think that's a selective. I think you're actually chosen. So the third journey within the source is called divine, and that I believe is like for people like Mother Teresa, Gandhi. There's certain people that are just so connected to the universe that they're actually doing God's work, so to speak.
Yes.
And they have no, like, there's no little I at all. It doesn't result. I mean, there's, like, I think I'm in spiritual love, but the ego still, like, I have the ego in check. The ego still, like, every once in a while, it's like, hey, what's up, buddy?
Right.
What you doing?
Right.
Like, what we doing today? It's like, oh, no. The divine, you don't have that. You're just completely, there's no, I think you're so connected.
Yes.
That you're just doing God's work or the divine's work
Through
and,
you, right?
Yeah, and
They're
so
just totally. There's no little self there, like
there's
you
no
said.
little self. Dr. Martin Luther King, you're just on such a mission that you sacrifice everything. You sacrifice your life, and you know, and yeah, I think those are chosen people. I don't necessarily think that's a path that is we have access. I mean, granted, we do have access to it because you can study. We can have the choice to go and reside and be a monk and concentrate on that spirituality. But like you said, you have to. There's a balance between spirituality and the real world, so to speak.
Yes. And I think that it's important to look at and to really know your path for yourself, because everybody's path is different, I would say, like Martin Luther King's path and Mother Teresa and other just utterly compassionate and just otherworldly human beings, almost ascended masters who they become. And so it's important to know what your blueprint is and to get more of that self-awareness and self-mastery. And then once you have that mastery, and as you develop your mastery, you are able to tap into what your purpose is. And I think, like you said, Eric, surrendering to divine will guide you back on the path. And then surrendering doesn't mean doing nothing and like throwing the towel in. You may have read Michael Singer's book, The Surrender Experiment, and he totally surrenders and is led on his path by just letting go completely. And I think surrendering is about letting go, but it's not about not taking action, because oftentimes in surrender, you then open up to the wisdom, and the wisdom guides you what action to take next. So yeah, just being close to that current. On the current. I remember I was surfing with my uncle in Hawaii, and there was this really, really long paddle out. It's Kaiser's in Waikiki, really long paddle out. And he's like, Lindsey, come over here. I'm going to show you a trick. So in this vast ocean that like you could barely see the other surfers because they were specks, there was a tiny current. And when we got on that current, our boards were floating out. We saw other people kind of struggling, but when we were on that little current, it was just like, zoom. You didn't have to paddle. You couldn't see the current with your eyes. You just had to know it and feel it. And in that moment, I had such a deeper understanding of
the universe,
of what
right?
the current is. Yeah.
It's we talked about it in other episodes about omens and angels, and like we get these little droplets of reminders that we can tap in, and it's being aware that we have a choice. But like I said, a lot of people are so asleep, and they are in this hedonic treadmill that they are not even aware of the two sides of our personality. So one of the sides of our personality originates in fear, which is through the narrative and through society, and it reacts through anger, anxiety, stress, hate, jealousy, envy, a whole bunch of different things, all the negative stuff, right? And so anything that happens to us, we're going to react in that way. That's part of our personality. The other part of our personality, which is connected to the source, which resides in our heart, originates out of love. I mean, from our creation. And that is compassion, empathy, kindness. And we have a choice. We literally have a choice. But a lot of us don't know that because we are conditioned in society to be competitive. Competitive is our lower self. Cooperation is actually the higher self. We're conditioned to put our on all these different masks to not show our true selves and not be vulnerable. So therefore we hide. You know, we, like they said, it's the soul is covered by 1,000 veils. We just, you know, all the filters, all the conditions that guard the heart and guard the soul ends up, you know, keeping us away from our true self.
Yes.
But all of those hardships are actually, we talked about in previous episodes, broken to open. All of those hardships are literally meant to put us on the path to find love. And once we connect with love and our purpose, then, you know, the sky's the limit. And it looks scary because, you know, the society tells us to plan. We have to plan ahead. We have to plan 5 years ahead. We need to know what it looks like, right? And sometimes when you are following your path, there's just an ebb and flow. Like you said, there's like, you didn't see the current. Everybody else is out there working hard, right? Because we're programmed to work hard and the reward will come, right? But there's people like Deepak Chopra and all these other people. It's like, that's a farce. That's a fallacy. He said, actually, if you work, he has a law of least effort, the law of least effort. And his law of least effort is when you find your truth, when you find your purpose, everything's effortless. You know, and everything, the universe kind of moves its, you know, moves you towards that and creates certain things to happen for you that you're not necessarily putting effort in. I mean, the biggest effort is taking the risk and moving in that direction, right?
Yes.
And I say risk because it's not really risk, but we view it as risk because it's not what we know. We're not familiar with it.
Yes, Eric. And this reminds me of, in Taoism, there's a knowing or a practice of effortless action. So it reminds me of when somebody who's really skilled in their craft is doing their work, whether it's a professional athlete, an artist, somebody at the top of their field, it looks effortless. They're still acting, but there's not that struggle. There's the grace and the beauty and aspects such as grace and beauty and lightness and effortlessness are all aspects of the divine. So those people have done their work by clearing what needs to go, by training what needs to be trained, and they become these representations of divinity on earth. So divinity comes through in many ways. It's through grace, through beauty, through lightness, through kindness, through compassion. And as humans, I believe we're like the channels or the sources through which that divinity flows. And you may know people who they just come into the room and you can feel their sweetness, you can feel their grace, and that is divinity moving through them. And so we're actually able to perceive it. And everything that resides, we have all the gold that we need within us, like all the wisdom. And in the yogic tradition, we're not adding and building, but rather we're stripping away the layers of illusion of that which is not us, to be able to reveal the gold beneath. And that's the basis of my book, is like, we have everything. Like, how do you reveal your true gold and be a superhuman, you know?
Actually, I
living
think
divinity.
That's one of the things that I learned through my research, which was kind of mind-blowing, is that exactly what you said is like, we have everything. Because we are born as miracle babies, we're born with everything within us. What ends up happening is, as we take that first journey away, we build up all of the coal. Like you said, we're gold, we're golden, but we build up all of the cold residue. And our purpose then becomes to strip off that residue.
Yes.
And I think my transformation was rapid, because once you strip it away, it already, it's already there. So then all the answers just start to, like, it's like you've discovered a book, and then all the pages just start to flow and flow and flow. And it's like, the biggest quest is to realize that the book is there.
Yes.
And to find the book. And when you find the book, like I said, my transformation was rapid. And when I learned is that everything is in us, we just have to tap back into it. Mm-hmm. And when you tap into it, it just flows.
Yes.
It just comes.
Yes.
Because that's our true self. Our true self is divine. We are all connected. We are all part of the source. And that's pure love.
Yes.
But unfortunately, as we connect to our ego, I don't know if we're in the aha moment parts, but I want people to do just one little test. And the test is for 15 minutes or maybe a half an hour, write down every positive thought that you have and then write down every negative thought that you have. And I guarantee you'll have more negative thoughts than you have positive thoughts. Most people. And are we at the aha moment, Felicia? How much time do we? Because sometimes we run over. Okay, so we should be at that.
By the way, we are at Morris Media with the lovely Felicia,
yes,
who makes our episodes look so incredible and keeps us on track and on point and makes all this beautiful stuff happen.
Yeah, she does a great job.
Thank you, Felicia.
And so yes, the I just lost my train of thoughts.
Oh, the aha moment.
Yeah, the aha moment is yeah, but I lost it. But anyway, the negative thoughts.
Yes, the exercise.
Talking about the exercise about things. Okay, so every single negative thought is the ego. Every single one. Every single thought that we have that is negative is the ego. It doesn't serve us. And so the faster that we can get that under control, the faster we can journey back to the source and find the book and uncover. But unfortunately, we are in this, we're conditioned, and because of the negative thoughts, there's also the fear, and the fear binds us. We have this false belief of this is who we are, and the emotions behind that false belief binds us to believe that that's what we are, but that's not who we are.
Right.
So I should go. You should go because I'm going to put up
takeaways?
You do your takeaway because I'm going to put up a chart here.
So I have a few takeaways. One is that imagine you're this beautiful butterfly, or you're a moth, right? And becoming this beautiful butterfly. And it doesn't matter what other people do, or other people don't affect your ability to just be the butterfly that you are. I think that can be powerful because oftentimes we think like there's a limited resource, or if this person's doing this, it's a threat to my growth and development. So I would say to remember you are who you are and just be you. And then my second takeaway is that the way you deal with, whether you call it the lower self or the more primal aspect or the more unrefined or crude or that human element, and also that it's comprised of your many lifetimes and your many beliefs and the belief systems of society, rather than trying to abolish, eliminate, annihilate, dissolve, treat, and get rid of those parts of self, like whether it's the ego or something that your shadow self, or things that are not your best self, rather than try to stuff it in a closet, to cut it off, to get rid of it, you have to, I believe, embrace and nurture that part of you. And when you get to know it and embrace it and harmonize and become at peace with it, that's when it doesn't have any charge anymore. So just in terms of a practical way to deal with it, don't try to cut off that part of you because it is you. It's about mastering it, and mastering it through softness, compassion, and following guidance and wisdom on where and how to do that.
Cool.
Yeah.
You always give great advice there.
Oh, thanks, UB.
Felicia, if you can put up the Tale of Two Wolves, and for those who are listening, it's one of my favorite poems I included in the book. But real quick, there is one of the researches that I found is that our collective consciousness comes from the source. So if you look at the famous painting of the 16th Chapel by Michelangelo, a famous painting where the divine or God is giving Adam life. They're touching fingers. If you look closer, there's a hidden message in there. If you look at what God is floating in, it's anatomically, it's the outline of the brain. And within that, you see that there are other humans that are next to God. And so the belief is that God not only gives you life, he gives you consciousness. And that is what I talk about when we are born, we are the miracle babies, right? Mm-hmm. And so we are born with everything that we need through that consciousness and through that life that the source gives us and all humans. Unfortunately, we are a society where we're complicit in suffering. And this is the bad stuff. We are living in an imperfect world where suffering is complicit. We're humans letting other humans suffer, and we're noticing it, and we're not doing anything. So I want to read a quick poem, The Tale of Two Wolves. And it goes like this. One evening, an old Cherokee told his grandson about a battle that goes on inside people. He said, "My son, the battle is between two wolves inside of all of us. One is evil. It is anger, envy, jealousy, doubt, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego. The other is good. It is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, forgiveness, truth, compassion, and faith." The grandson thought about it for a minute, and then he asked his grandfather, "Which wolf wins?" And the old Cherokee simply replied, "The one you feed." So the moral of the story is we are we are expressions of selves. We do have the choice to love or fear, and so we need to love as a society, as humanity, and that's our mission, and that's our final episode for season 1. And we appreciate all of you guys. I always say that we want to strive to 500 and above, 500 to happiness, and we appreciate you tuning in to us, and look forward to season 2, because we're already working on that, and we'll be featuring some guests, and we look for your input as well, because I've been getting some private messages, and I know you have been as well, and
yes.
We appreciate all of your feedback and kind words. So thank you. So
see you guys in the spring.
Yes.
Thank you for tuning into the Cowfish Show. Check back for future episodes on raising consciousness, creating happiness, fulfillment, and love.
And remember to find us and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube at The Cowfish Show.